Today is Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. The time right now is 1:41 a.m. I just received a text and it was really interesting. Basically, it was someone saying, I hope you find God, or I hope God helps you find the right path. And anytime well, first of all, I saw this and it was upsetting to see because this person like knows me really well. And I thought we had some kind of an understanding, but it seems like they still think I'm like a heathen or like there's something wrong with me. So it did kind of hurt a bit. And anytime I have this kind of interaction where I feel something that I don't really want to feel, aside from letting myself kind of feel it, I do like kind of analyzing it a little bit. And I do like sitting down with some cards and things, and I like digging a little bit deeper. What's important to know here before I even get into kind of the cards is that a lot of the times when people say these things, I understand that it's not something you want to hear and it's offensive or inappropriate, upsetting, but they don't usually say it with malice in mind, not usual. If it's kind of coming out of nowhere, if you're kind of fighting and they say it in this passive aggressive way, that's something else. But if they're just kind of saying it out of nowhere, they're just trying to wish you well. And I think it's important to look beyond what they may have intended. It's kind of like skimming the cream off the top of like the whey or whatever. You're taking like the good stuff and you're leaving the bad stuff behind. Even though they shouldn't say things like that, right? And you should leave each person to their own. And this is someone that I have given advice to, someone who I've helped and supported. Anyone who wishes you well in that sense, it's usually because they are of a particular faith and they were like, I wish you were more like me. And it's like a self-righteous kind of thing, but I don't think it's so deeply ingrained. I don't think most people even realize that. But I think what hurt me is that it's almost like I felt like I wasn't even like good enough still. Like even though I've like helped you, tried to do everything I can, it's like I'm still like not enough. So this feeling that I felt of like not feeling like I'm enough, that's kind of more of what I wanted to kind of look into. Just this interaction in general. I didn't really reply in a flippant way. I don't think. All I said was like, "Thank you for your well wishes. I know my path, and I plan on sticking to it." And that was that. And then I sat down. And what the cards are saying here is that you have this. The reason I'm recording this and I will post it is because maybe you've had interactions like this in your life, and maybe we can together come to an understanding of why people are like this or why we feel this way sometimes. So it's like what we start with here is that you may be someone who likes to see the best in people. You like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But what ends up happening in cases like this sometimes is that you end up wearing rose colored glasses. You don't see kind of the shoddy foundation that people are standing on, or you don't see their shadows that they're kind of grappling with. Because to you, if someone's just like nice to you or they seem compassionate without like the asterisk, like you don't notice the asterisk of like, oh, they're like this, they're compassionate towards you, or like they seem to be nice towards you when you're helping them or doing something for them, and you kind of turn sort of this blind eye to this fine print. You end up wearing the rose colored glasses and thinking that, oh, because I'm treating this person nicely and we're getting along, that they must respect me in the same way that I respect them. But that's not always the case. And I think it's really interesting that I got this text because I do believe that a lot of the times the universe, like people will reveal themselves to you, and it doesn't always have to be like this big tower moment and chaotic. Sometimes people will tell on themselves. And I think this is something that needed to happen. Generally speaking, there are people in the world who, let's say there's two people and they're on polar opposite ends of a spectrum of a belief system or politics or whatever it may be. They're like opposites. It's like black and white. And so when one person sees looks across the spectrum and sees someone else, and this person seems to be doing well, they're happy, they're confident, they seem self-assured, because that person, the self-assured person, is on the complete opposite end of the scale, the person who is looking at them may start questioning their own beliefs, and simply because they see the other person being happy. Some people are only able to see in this like black and white. So it's like, oh, if they're happy and they're doing well, then it must mean that something is wrong with me. They're not able to see in this way where like we can both be successful and happy and joyful, so long as you're following the path that truly your heart calls to. But when people with this like black and white thinking, where they think it's like you versus me, we have to be opposites, they get defensive, they get insecure because they think, am I doing the right thing? If they're doing the right thing, because it looks like they're doing the right thing, that must mean I'm doing the wrong thing, which makes them feel very insecure. And then they get defensive. And when they get defensive, it's almost like they have to act in ways or say things to, it's not so much to convince you, but it's to convince themselves that they're on the right path, instead of what they could be doing is exploring their options. It is again a spectrum. You don't have to box yourself into anything, right? But when people get so possessive of their identities in these ways, when they get so stuck on them, it prevents growth. It's almost like you're clipping your own wings. All of the joy that you kind of seek can become blocked because you're not moving from one place. I firmly believe that human beings are creations of evolution. We're meant to grow and expand and evolve because that's what we've always been doing. So when you find a thing and you latch onto it and you refuse to let it go, you refuse to move beyond that and into something new, you prevent your own growth. And this in itself reminds me of like an Ouroboros, right? Where it's like eating its own tail. You're causing your own strife because again, the human being is meant to. And so if you stop your own expansion, you stop your own evolution, your spirit's going to get restless. This stalemate that you put yourself in is going to prevent growth, which is going to cause a lot of distress for you. A lot of people, instead of looking at themselves from this external point of view, from a different perspective, it's almost like beating the dead horse or whatever that saying is. They want to like stamp it deeper into themselves, like whatever this fragment of their identity is that they're so possessive and protective of, they don't want to let go. They want to instead like beat it further into themselves, which can be, again, like if it no longer aligns with you, if you're starting to question it, it's just like not going to feel right. So that's sort of the insight into sort of like why people may do things like this. And the advice here that I've gotten is to not to get too tangled up in this. Like, no, don't let it trigger you. Don't let it upset you. Don't let it bother you. Definitely don't let it like cloud your judgment. If I almost believe that if people are saying things like this to you, you are on the right path that's meant for you, because you're making them question whether they're on the right path or not. By seeing your radiance, it makes them question where they are in their own lives. So you keep doing you. If that means marching to the beat of your own drum, like do that. And it often does. I do also honestly believe that like if you, in order to like really fully and truly understand life, your path is going to look a little different from everyone else's. The advice here is just to keep doing you, essentially. Don't give in to any provocations or anything. Whether or not it's a well wish or meant to provoke you or something passive aggressive, pay no mind to it. As I said in the beginning, just scoop out kind of the well wishes and leave everything else behind. Don't let this mess you up in any way. Again, like I said, if you're getting comments like this from people, it probably means that you're on the right track.